I wanted to set off some of that kōrero. So just in terms of the nuclear free and independent Pacific movement, just how successful it was, and as historians, we're only really finding it out now because the documents are becoming declassified. So over the past year, like a series of 500 documents from New Zealand and Australia have come to light, and for those people, maybe younger people on the call, the Nuclear Free and Independent Pacific Movement was a grassroots coalition of different activist groups, right across different interests, green groups, trade union groups, environmental groups, but most importantly, Indigenous groups. And so the anti-nuclear kind of label that was established in the mid-70s when it came out of Fiji with the ATOM committee against testing on Moroa committee became the Nuclear Free and Independent Pacific Movement in the late 70s, early 80s. And so it correctly drew the conclusion that we all know, is that the root of nuclearism is colonization, and that if you want to solve nuclearism, you must give the land back to the people. And so one thing that kept the NFIP going was a statement by the admiral of the Pacific Fleet at the time, that the nuclear free and independent posed the biggest threat to America's security interests, and that kept everyone going for some time. But now we know just the extent to which the NFIP and its effect on Pacific Islands regionalism had on America's imperial ambitions. So, and what is heartbreaking for people in New Zealand and Australia is the extent to which our leaders colluded in this vision. So in 1983, when ideas for the South Pacific Nuclear Free Zone, what became the Treaty of Rarotonga, was retabled by the Hawke government, the Australian Labor Party, when they came in 83. In March of 1984, the American diplomats came to Australia and declassified documents, which I'll read in its full because it's really startling. This is the brief to a meeting between all of Australia's top diplomats and the head of the State Department's EPA, the Eastern Pacific section of the State Department. Australia is committed to advancing the concept of a South Pacific nuclear free zone. Australia cannot retreat from this commitment. It is a reflection not only of the Australian Labor Party's policy towards a nuclear free zone in the South Pacific, or of the government's desire to be seen to respond to the genuine concerns of the countries of the region, but also of a growing awareness amongst the concerned electorate with Australia of important disarmament, arms control, and nuclear matters. At the same time, nuclear issues are live issues in the South Pacific for a variety of reasons, not all of which are necessarily linked to French nuclear testing at Moroa Atoll. Pacific Island nuclear concerns are linked with the role of the oceans and their traditions and cultures, and as a resource. Pacific Islanders in principle draw no real distinction between Japanese proposals to dump waste material in the Northern Pacific, US proposals to sink obsolete nuclear submarines off California, and the testing of nuclear weapons at Moroa. It is all the Pacific Ocean, quote unquote, our ocean. Most, however, are realistic enough to appreciate the principles of deterrence and the security provided by the ANZUS umbrella, although the majority would not want this to be publicly affirmed. But there are one or two ideologues, and one or two because of their colonial experiences, that lack sophistication. They could develop proposals related to a nuclear-free South Pacific, which could pose real problems for ANZUS partners. One important objective of Australia is to preempt such proposals of a more radical or impractical nature by drafting proposals that take into account the defence requirements of the region and of our allies. Ours is a process of damage containment. So the Hawke government tabled a toothless anti-nuclear treaty, which precluded a real nuclear-free and independent Pacific. And the Longi government did nothing to do this. So Tina's been talking about lifting the cloaks of national myth-making. And one of those is is New Zealand's kind of peace role, our indigenization of war making. But I want to really draw 2 points about this document, which highlight 2 things. One is that the strength of Pacific regionalism really unsettled the states. So much so that they, after this meeting, they, in the process of negotiating the SPREP Convention, which is the convention that bans the low-level nuclear waste dumping of the Pacific, reneged. So they gave up, and they gave up their high seas rights to dump nuclear waste in the South Pacific. So it's a huge win for the Pacific. It's part of a collective Indigenous mandate over our oceans that's been denied to us for centuries. You know, we need to be telling the stories of that win, but we also, in this current moment where the Pacific has become a sacrifice zone, need to be wary that we could read this document back and substitute it with climate change. The Australian Labor Party's come straight back in here, 2022, turned up to the Pacific Islands Forum and wants to make bold statements about climate. Jacinda can go to the Pacific Islands Forum, talk about how that New Zealand opposes militarism, but we have our people at RIMPAC. I am very concerned, and I think we all should be, that New Zealand and Australia, as America's lieutenants in the Pacific, will use climate change rhetoric to further securitize the region on behalf of the United States, which is going to preclude our own self-determined regional collective future and push our nation closer to war. And climate, you know, there is no, and we all know there's no winning this war. It will be the complete annihilation of any Pacific future worth saving, and it will push us beyond the brink. Yeah, that's all I have to say. I wanted to make that point just to highlight those that have come before us and the massive wins that they achieved that go unheralded, but are only now being able to be seen. And 2, the parallels with that moment and this moment that we should fight, and we have to, and that the way to our future is to rebuild the regionalism which created the strong vision that really unsettled the United States and points the way towards our collective liberation. Yeah, I love it.